There is a gap, a tiny, almost invisible space between the moment something happens to you and the moment you act. Most people never find that gap. They live their entire lives in the half-second between insult and outburst, between fear and panic, between pain and self-destruction. They react instinctively, automatically, without thinking, and slowly they become strangers to themselves. Because a person who reacts to everything is not truly living. He's being lived by circumstances, by emotions, by other people's words, by whatever storm happens to arrive that day. But the people history remembers, the emperors, the philosophers, the men and women who remained calm while the world around them burned. They found something different. They found that tiny space, and they learned to live inside it. Marcus Aurelius found it while ruling an empire collapsing under war and plague. Epictetus found it while living as a slave. Seneca found it while serving a paranoid emperor who would one day order his death. 3 lives, 3 completely different worlds, yet all of them discovered the same truth. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to become after it happens, and that choice exists in the gap. Most people think Stoicism is about suppressing emotions, pretending not to care, becoming cold. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Stoics felt everything. They felt grief, fear, anger, disappointment. They simply refused to become servants to those emotions. They believed feelings are visitors, temporary guests, and wisdom is learning which guests deserve to stay and which must be shown the door. Because here's the uncomfortable reality. If someone can make you angry whenever they want, they control you. If one rude comment ruins your day, they control you. If a failure convinces you to give up, then your future is being written by circumstances instead of character. And Stoicism asks a dangerous question. What if nobody has that power over you? What if peace isn't something you find, but something you train? What if the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest, isn't the richest, isn't the most feared, but the one who cannot be provoked into becoming someone he isn't? That is the man Marcus Aurelius spent his life trying to become. That is the man Epictetus taught his students to become. And that is the man you can become too. Today, we're going to learn exactly how. Not with theories, not with motivational slogans, but with practical wisdom forged in war, tested by suffering, and preserved for more than 2,000 years. Because somewhere inside you, there is already a calm mind waiting. The question is, can you find it before the world convinces you to lose it? Welcome back to Wisdom of the Stoics, the place where ancient philosophy meets modern struggle. If you're new here, this channel exists for one reason: to take 2,000 years of wisdom from men who faced plague, betrayal, war, exile, and death, and hand it to you as a weapon for your everyday life. Because let's be honest, most people aren't destroyed by tragedy. They're destroyed by small moments: a rude comment, an unexpected rejection, a bad day at work, a message that never arrives, a single moment that changes the atmosphere inside their mind. And suddenly, their peace is gone, not because the event was unbearable, but because the reaction was. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time someone cut you off in traffic and you felt your entire body change? Your jaw tightened, your chest heated up, your thoughts became aggressive. For a moment, you weren't choosing your actions anymore. You were being carried by emotion. Or maybe it wasn't traffic. Maybe it was a text message. 11 words. That's all it took. And suddenly, your whole evening was ruined. You replayed it again and again. What did they mean? Why did they say that? Should I answer? Should I ignore it? Hours passed, and they probably forgot the message 5 minutes after sending it. Yet you carried it like a stone in your chest. That's not weakness. That's biology. Your brain contains an ancient alarm system, a structure called the amygdala. Its job is simple: keep you alive. For hundreds of thousands of years, it protected your ancestors from predators, enemies, and danger. The problem is, it can't tell the difference between a lion chasing you and an email criticizing your work. To the primitive brain, both feel like threats. so it reacts instantly, before logic arrives, before wisdom speaks, before your rational mind even gets a vote. And this is the trap almost everyone lives inside. Something happens. You react. Someone insults you. You react. You fail. You react. Your mood becomes a puppet dancing to the rhythm of circumstances. The Stoics had a name for this. They called it slavery. Not slavery to another person, but slavery to passion, slavery to impulse, slavery to whatever emotion happens to arrive first. And here's the brutal truth. If you are always reacting, you are never actually living your own life. You are living other people's lives. Their opinions decide your mood. Their behavior decides your peace. Their anger becomes your anger. Their chaos becomes your chaos. You become a mirror, reflecting the world, instead of a force shaping your own existence. And Stoicism refuses to let that happen, because the Stoics believed that between what happens to you and what you do next, there is freedom, a small space, a hidden doorway, a place where wisdom lives. And if you learn to slow down enough to enter that space, everything changes. Not the world, not other people, you. And that, more than anything, is where real power begins. The man who understood this better than almost anyone in history was Marcus Aurelius. Picture him for a moment. The year is 170 AD. Rome is suffering. A plague has swept through the empire. Thousands are dying. Wars rage on the northern frontier. Political enemies whisper behind closed doors. And at the center of it all sits one man, the emperor, the most powerful human being alive. Marcus Aurelius could have anything he wanted. He commanded armies. He ruled millions. He possessed wealth beyond imagination. And yet, almost every night, he sat alone inside a dimly lit tent, writing reminders to himself. Not speeches, not laws, not books for publication, private notes, warnings, instructions, small pieces of wisdom meant to stop his own mind from becoming his enemy. Imagine that, the ruler of the known world, afraid not of barbarians, but of losing control of himself. One sentence, written in those lonely nights, survived 2,000 years. And perhaps no sentence captures Stoicism better. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Read that again. Not outside events, not people, not fate, not illness, not betrayal. Your mind, that's where your kingdom begins. Marcus understood something most people never do. You cannot stop pain, but you can stop pain from becoming suffering. You cannot stop anger from appearing, but you can stop anger from becoming action. You cannot stop tragedy, but tragedy does not have permission to define you unless you grant it. History tells us Marcus had every reason to become bitter. His children died. His empire was collapsing. Trusted allies betrayed him. His own son, Commodus, would eventually become one of Rome's worst emperors. And still, Marcus kept returning to the same discipline. Pause, observe, respond deliberately. Never surrender the throne of your mind to emotion. He wasn't emotionless. That's important. He grieved. He worried. He felt disappointment. Meditations is full of moments where he struggles, where he reminds himself again and again not to become angry, not to become resentful, not to become cruel, because Stoicism was never about perfection. It was practice, daily practice. The same way a soldier trains his body, Marcus trained his mind. And over years, that training created something extraordinary. Not a man who never felt emotion, but a man who could feel everything without being ruled by anything. That's the difference. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. The Stoic remains calm when life becomes unfair. Anyone can be kind when they're respected. The Stoic remains kind when they're insulted. Anyone can act wisely when emotions are quiet. The Stoic learns to act wisely while emotions are screaming. And that's why Marcus Aurelius still matters, because his greatest victory wasn't over enemies. It wasn't over nations. It wasn't even over death. It was over himself. And once you understand that, you begin to realize the greatest battle you will ever fight is not out there. It's here, inside your own mind. But Marcus Aurelius was not the first Stoic to discover this truth. Long before an emperor ruled Rome, there was a man who possessed nothing. No palace, no army, no freedom. His name was Epictetus, and his story should make every excuse you've ever made for your reactions feel painfully small. Epictetus was born a slave, not metaphorically, not spiritually, literally owned by another human being. He had no rights, no possessions, no control over where he lived or what happened to his body. Imagine waking up every morning knowing your life belongs to someone else. Most people believe that freedom comes from circumstances. Epictetus proved the opposite. There's a famous story about him. His master, a cruel and violent man, began twisting Epictetus's leg harder and harder, trying to provoke him, trying to break him. Epictetus calmly said, "You will break it." His master laughed and kept twisting. Finally, the bone snapped, and Epictetus, without anger, without panic, simply replied, "Did I not tell you that you would break it?" Whether every detail of this story is historically accurate doesn't matter, because the lesson it teaches is undeniably true. Epictetus understood something almost impossible for ordinary people to accept. Your body is not you. Your possessions are not you. Your reputation is not you. Not even other people's opinions about you are you. The only thing that truly belongs to you is your judgment, the way you interpret what happens, the meaning you assign to your experiences. That, and only that, is yours. After gaining his freedom, Epictetus became one of the greatest teachers in history, and the lesson he repeated endlessly to his students was simple. Men are disturbed, not by things, but by the views which they take of things. Think about that. It's not the insult that destroys you. It's your interpretation of the insult. It's not rejection that crushes you. It's the story you tell yourself about what rejection means. Someone ignores your message, and instantly your mind says, "They don't respect me." Someone criticizes your work, and suddenly, "I'm not good enough." The event takes seconds. The suffering can last years, because suffering isn't created by reality. It's created by the stories we attach to reality, and Epictetus wanted to break that habit forever. He taught his students to ask one question every single day. Is this within my control, or is it not? If it's not, let it go. If it is, focus completely on it. That's it. Simple, but unbelievably difficult, because human beings love trying to control the uncontrollable. We want everyone to like us. We want the past to change. We want other people to behave exactly the way we expect. And when they don't, we suffer. Epictetus says, stop, ask the question, take back your energy, and protect the only kingdom that was ever truly yours, your mind. But here's the problem. Knowing this philosophy and living it are two very different things, because in the heat of the moment, when anger rises, when fear grabs your chest, when someone wounds your pride, wisdom becomes difficult. And that's exactly why the Stoics trained, not occasionally, not when life was convenient. Every single day, they treated the mind the same way a warrior treats his body, because no soldier waits for war to begin training, and no Stoic waits for suffering to begin thinking. This brings us to Seneca, a man whose life looked perfect from the outside, rich, influential, respected, an advisor to the Emperor Nero, the kind of man everyone envies. But Seneca understood something terrifying. Everything you have can disappear in a single day. Your health, your career, your relationships, your status, gone. And because he understood this, he practiced something that sounds strange to modern ears. Every morning, Seneca imagined loss. He imagined becoming poor. He imagined being exiled. He imagined illness, failure, even death. Not because he was pessimistic, quite the opposite. He was preparing. He called this practice Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. He believed that if you rehearse difficulty inside your mind, difficulty loses its power to surprise you, because surprise is often what breaks people, not the event itself. Think about it. How many times have you suffered? Twice. Once, imagining disaster, and then again when the disaster actually arrived. The Stoics wanted to end that second suffering. Seneca wrote, "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." What an extraordinary idea. Train yourself to expect difficulty, and difficulty becomes smaller. Expect people to disappoint you, and their actions lose the power to shock. Expect setbacks, and setbacks become part of the journey, not proof. You should quit. Seneca's own life proved this. Eventually, the Emperor Nero, the very man he had advised for years, turned against him. Soldiers arrived at Seneca's home with a death sentence. He was ordered to take his own life. Imagine that moment. Everything you've built, everything you've achieved, coming to an end. Most people would panic, rage, beg. But historians tell us Seneca remained calm. He comforted his friends. He reassured his family, and he reminded them of the philosophy he had practiced his entire life. Because calm is not something you suddenly discover when crisis arrives. It is something you build long before. You need it day after day, thought after thought, reaction after reaction. That's what unites Marcus, Epictetus, and Seneca. 3 different lives, 3 different worlds, but one identical lesson: train the mind before the moment demands it. Because in the moment itself, there is no time left to train. And that, perhaps, is the greatest secret of Stoicism. You don't rise to the level of your emotions. You fall to the level of your training. So how do you actually train your mind to respond instead of react? Not in theory, not while watching a YouTube video, but tomorrow morning, when someone annoys you, when life doesn't go your way, when emotions arrive uninvited. The Stoics had a practical answer, and it begins with something deceptively simple. Pause. That's it. Pause. Epictetus taught his students never to trust their first impulse, because the first impulse is rarely wisdom. It's habit, it's ego, it's fear. The moment you feel anger rising, pause. The moment you want to send that angry message, pause. The moment someone insults you, pause. Create space between feeling and action. That tiny space is where freedom lives. And at first, it feels unnatural because you've spent your entire life reacting automatically. But over time, something remarkable happens. The pause grows. What was once a fraction of a second becomes 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10, and suddenly you discover you have choices. You don't have to say the first thing that enters your mind. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to defend yourself against every criticism. You can simply observe and choose. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. Whenever anger appeared, he reminded himself, you are disturbed, not by events, but by your judgment about them. Notice the difference, not the event. Your judgment. Someone insults you, that's the event. You decide, it means you're worthless, that's the judgment. Someone rejects you, that's the event. You decide, it means you'll never be loved, that's the judgment. And here's the beautiful truth. Judgments can change. You can question them, challenge them, replace them. You can ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it within my control? If the answer is no, release it. Let it pass through you like weather. Because not every thought deserves your loyalty. Not every emotion deserves obedience. The Stoics understood that the mind is like a garden. Whatever you water grows. Water resentment, resentment grows. Water gratitude, gratitude grows. Water fear, fear becomes your identity. But water courage, patience, discipline, and wisdom. And slowly, almost invisibly, you become someone new. Not overnight, not magically, through repetition. That's why Marcus wrote daily. That's why Seneca reflected nightly. That's why Epictetus questioned every impression, because character is not built in grand moments. It's built in ordinary moments, repeated consistently. The text message you don't answer in anger, the insult you refuse to carry all day, the failure you learn from instead of being destroyed by. These moments seem small, but your destiny is hidden inside them, because every reaction strengthens the old version of yourself, and every response creates the person you are becoming. The question is, which person are you training today? Here's what nobody tells you about reacting versus responding. It's not really about anger. It's not even about emotional control. It's about who you become after thousands of tiny decisions. Every time you react, you surrender a piece of your freedom. A rude stranger controls your mood. A negative comment controls your confidence. A bad day controls your future. Little by little, you stop writing your own story, and the world writes it for you. But every time you pause, every time you breathe, observe, and choose your response, you reclaim that authorship. You become the writer again. Marcus Aurelius wasn't remembered because he never felt anger. He was remembered because anger never became his master. Epictetus wasn't remembered because his life was easy. He was remembered because he proved that even a slave could possess an unconquerable mind. Seneca wasn't remembered because he escaped death. He was remembered because he met death with dignity. Different men, different lives. One shared truth. Freedom does not begin outside you. It begins inside the moment. You refuse to let emotion make your decisions. Inside the moment, you refuse to become the worst version of yourself simply because someone else already has. That tiny gap we talked about at the beginning, that almost invisible space between what happens to you and what you do next. That gap is your freedom. It cannot be bought. It cannot be stolen. No government can take it. No enemy can destroy it. No betrayal can erase it. Unless you give it away. And most people do. Every single day, they hand over their peace for approval, their joy for validation, their identity for acceptance. The Stoics refused, and that's why their words still live. 2,000 years later because they discovered something eternal. You cannot always control your circumstances, but you can always control the spirit with which you meet them. That's where real strength lies. Not in muscles, not in money, not in status, in self-mastery, in calm, in the ability to remain yourself when the world invites you to become someone else. And maybe that's the greatest victory a human being can ever achieve. Not conquering cities, not defeating enemies, but ruling the kingdom within. A kingdom that exists inside your mind. And once you truly learn to govern it, you become dangerously free. So here's my challenge for you, starting today. The next time something tries to provoke you, don't rush to your reaction. Don't let anger speak first. Don't let fear make decisions on your behalf. Reach for the gap. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. If the answer is yes, respond with wisdom. Not because it's easy, but because every single time you do this, you become a different person, a stronger person, a calmer person, a person who cannot be manipulated by circumstances. Think about how different your life would be if you mastered just this one skill. How many arguments would disappear? How much anxiety would lose its grip? How many regrets would never be created in the first place? Most people spend their lives trying to control the world. The Stoics spent their lives learning to control themselves, and in doing so, they became unshakable. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not your salary, not your followers, not your possessions, your thoughts. Because your thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become actions, actions become habits, and habits become destiny, which means your destiny is being shaped right now, in this moment, by how you choose to respond to life. Not tomorrow, not next year, today, the next insult, the next setback, the next disappointment. Those moments are not interruptions to your training. They are the training. Every difficult person is teaching you patience. Every failure is teaching you resilience. Every painful moment is asking, who are you going to become because of this? And slowly, through thousands of tiny choices, you answer. Marcus answered. Epictetus answered. Seneca answered. Now it's your turn, because one day, years from now, you'll look back at the person you are today, the impulsive version, the anxious version, the version who gave emotions too much power, and you'll barely recognize him. Not because life became easier, but because you became wiser, calmer, stronger. You learned that true freedom was never found outside yourself. It was hidden inside that tiny gap between stimulus and response, waiting patiently for you to discover it. If this video gave you even one idea you'll carry into your life, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe to Wisdom of the Stoics, so the next lesson finds you when you need it most. And tell me in the comments which Stoic spoke to you the most today, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, or Seneca. I'd genuinely love to know. Until next time, train your mind, protect your peace, master the gap, and remember, you cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always choose who you become because of it.